Chapter 1. How to Draw Simple Flowers. Among the many subjects for drawings, the flower is one of the most versatile and widely used models. Flowers are easy to learn and relatively complicated. Any method or structural approaches can be applied to drawing a flower, which makes it a subject that is adaptable to all skill levels. Must-have tools: H7 carbon pencil, eraser, 6B pencil, paper canvas, any size white paper, ballpoint pen, outlining, colored pencils, optional, for if you want to apply color. Step-by-step procedures. Select a flower variety that is simple, requires minimal shaping, and can be drawn at any angle. For the sake of this lesson, we will choose a sunflower. Think about the perspective, like the angle and the positioning of the image. Which way should it face? What will the surrounding background look like? For this lesson, we will draw a plain sunflower, starting with a backgroundless environment. Make sure to sharpen the pencils. They must be pointed enough to allow you to create fine lines. Start from a suitable focal point, such as the middle part of the paper. Draw a long, shallow, curved C in the middle, starting from point A, going down to point B, and another one parallel. The two lines together should resemble a bended, thin tube. The curved lines are the stem of the sunflower. The next step is to draw the center circular disc of the sunflower. Draw a slightly elongated circle at point A. Point A must be in the radius center of the drawn circle. Now that you have the center disc of the flower, the next step is to draw the petals. From any point outside the circle, draw a small upside-down letter U. Repeat the process of putting the upside-down U's around until they occupy the entire space outside the circle. Make sure that all the U's are drawn as close as possible to each other, leaving no spaces in between. The first row of petals is complete now, but you are just halfway done because you also have to make the underlying petals. As you will notice, there are spaces in between the curves of the U facing outward. Repeat drawing U's in between those spaces, but make sure both ends of the letter U are attached to two letter U's done earlier. Continue filling in the U's until you complete the whole section. The petals are now done, so we will move on to the sunflower leaves. Make a curved, slanting line starting from the middle section of the pre-drawn stem, which is the vertical shallow C. Mark it again as starting point A. Point B will be the end of the slanting line. From point B, draw a spade by curving it from slanting line point B. It should look like a half-drawn heart. To finish it off, repeat the process, but the curved part should face the opposite direction of the prior curve. Now that we have almost completed the whole flower, it's your option if you want to include a flower pot to the drawing or just concentrate on the flower itself. If you do, just draw an inverted trapezoid at point B of the flower stem. Make sure that the flower stem line is connected at the middle of the trapezoid's top side. To make the flower pot more realistic, round the edges of each side by drawing an arc line with the curved edge facing the inside angle of the trapezoid lines. Add the flower pot brim by simply putting another line parallel to the top line of the trapezoid. At this phase, the flower drawing is almost complete. All we need to do next is to finish it off by adding effects, like shadows. Imagine pointing a flashlight to a sunflower. You would notice that the shadows were cast away from the light perspective depending on the angle of the light source. Using the B pencil, Darken the sides of the marked shadow area repeatedly until you achieve a shadow effect. First-timers may not get the shadowing technique immediately, but constant practice will hone your skills. Outline each visible line with a ballpoint pen, preferably a black ink one, to darken the area and mark it as permanent. Once you have outlined it using a ballpoint pen, you cannot change any of the drawn line anymore. After carefully marking the outline, use a soft eraser to remove any traces of pencil lines. Once done, you can then add colors to it if you prefer, but coloring techniques will be covered in a separate edition. Useful tips. Always ensure that your pencils are sharp enough to create line boldness consistency. Once the pencil's carbon loses its sharp point, the line it creates becomes bolder as well.